Good morning, Karen. How's it going?
Hi, Amy. Good, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing fabulous. For uh, for our time today, I just want to let people know Karen and I were already chatting, and we want to fill you in a little bit about her business and what she's great at before we actually get into this coaching session today. And then we'll dive right in. So, Karen and I have become friends, and we've worked together over the past. I first got to know Karen when she was a part of my boundaries program, and then my membership program called the House of Impact. And Karen's someone who has one of the sweetest, softest hearts that I know. And as a business owner, as well as wife and mom, her love and care for the people around her is so evident. And that's one of the reasons that I love to be around her. And one of the reasons why we're having this conversation today. So, let me tell you a little bit about Karen. She is the owner of Muddy Gumboots Preschool and Daycare, and her work is so unique. So her kids are playing with animals that Karen loves and also photographs. So she's got multi skills. She has so many different skill sets. It makes me smile. She also is a photographer, and she loves capturing humans as well as animals, and is very talented at it. She's got a forest school teacher certificate, and there's other things that I'm sure if you want to get in touch with her, she can tell you more about herself. But I just love her philosophy of keeping, I love your philosophy, Karen, of keeping the kids outside as much as possible, and how that's so beneficial for their growth and their happiness and their calmness and all about that.
Mhm.
So, you told me earlier what you'd like to focus in on our conversation, but why don't you now fill me in on how I can help you most today and where we can focus our time?
Okay. So, um, probably the biggest struggle I have in business is with boundaries. Um, so, um, how to just firm up my boundaries a bit better and how to respond when boundaries are being pushed,
Hmm.
and um, also how to not take things personally, so personally in business. Um, yeah, I think that's.
Okay, great. I'm sure anyone listening right now is going to be able to relate
Mhm. Yeah.
if they're a business owner or a business leader. So, if you're watching this replay, listen in for your own life as a leader and pretend that I'm coaching you so that you can apply what Karen and I talk about to your own professional situation when it comes to boundary setting, firming up your boundaries, responding the way you want to respond, and giving yourself permission to step back and be objective when someone reacts in a way that you feel is hurtful or undeserving. So, Karen, can you tell us more about the specific situation you'd like help with, or is it a broad topic we can work with today?
It's fairly broad because it happens more times than I would like.
Yeah.
Um, just
So, maybe just let us know then what the type of situation is like, and maybe you can start with where you feel like where's the challenge in setting the firm boundary?
um, it's when things go sideways and children have to leave my care for different reasons. Um, and I think the big thing is keeping my self-worth intact when Um, when people are attacking me unjustified, they're just mad, they're lashing out. I know I've done nothing wrong. Um, but they just basically unload their frustration on me.
That's a good way to put it. That's a
Yeah.
very gentle way to put it.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about the sticky point, or what keeps you from following through when you feel like it's not healthy anymore for me or for the other children, or maybe for this whole environment, to have either that family or that child as a part of your work life anymore. So usually what happens, to give you an example, is we take the bait and therefore don't act. So we take the bait by believing something isn't okay, or it would mean this about me if I set the firm boundary I want to.
Right. Um, yeah, I don't want to have a reputation of just getting rid of kids willy-nilly, right?
Right.
Um, yeah, I'm just worried how it reflects back on me and my business.
Right. So basically, part of the bait that you're taking when you don't act when you want to is believing the story that it will taint my reputation and people will think something that's not true of me.
Right.
Like it
Yep.
will reveal something about me that I don't want people believing.
Yep.
And what is it that you don't want people believing, because it really just isn't true?
Um, that I'm hard to get along with would be one.
Yeah.
Um, that I'm not willing to work with children and families that may have difficulties. Yeah.
So maybe you're inflexible or intolerant or
Hmm.
too rigid.
Yeah.
Okay. It's almost laughable, because if you know Karen, Karen is the opposite of rigid. Wouldn't you say? You're quite like you're a strong individual, but you've got so much love and so much patience.
But it gets me in trouble a lot.
The the so much love and patience does, or the strength.
Yes. No, the love and patience.
Right. And yet, working with me through the boundaries course program, you probably understand more about what's true love and patience and what's false
Right.
love and patience, right?
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah.
So the healthy love and patience includes boundaries, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm hard to get along with. These are the lies that you've believed. I'm hard to get along with, and I'm too rigid, and I don't have patience. So tell me a little bit more about how long you tried to help this family or this child.
Oh, she was in my care 3 years.
So do you think that you were trying to help the situation that whole time?
No, it was great for about two of the years,
Okay, so for a whole 365 days nearly, you tried to help.
roughly. Yes.
Okay.
Well, not help, but I put up with certain things, certain, some disrespect and that sort of thing because I love the child.
Hmm. So I wonder if one of the stories that you told yourself was, I can handle disrespect and I should put up with it.
Yeah, totally.
Like a kind person or a patient person or a good business owner would do that. What do you think that should story, or like the definition of a caring person, was that you were believing?
I was more concerned about the child than the parents. Um, I really enjoyed the child. Like, we had come so far together. Um, yeah, so I can put up with the parents because I love this little girl, and um, I think it's important for her to be in my center.
Yeah. What do you think if you had made the stated the firm boundary and communicated your that boundary line with the parents sooner when things were starting to go downhill? What do you think you were believing about yourself? Like, well, that would reveal that I am, like, I can't do that because, is there more other than it would taint my reputation? Like maybe even how it might negatively impact the child?
Yes, and eventually it did. Yeah.
Sometimes we tell ourselves that the decision that's best for us can't be a win-win situation. And we only look through our human eyes at what is, instead of things that we can't see that are also happening that are good for everyone in the long run.
Hmm.
And that requires trust, right? So maybe it was a statement or a story that you were believing about yourself that also held you back from action sooner, that sounded something like, um, I shouldn't be so forward, or I shouldn't be so direct, or I shouldn't be. What do you think you were telling yourself?
Hmm. I was telling myself that there was no winning in this situation with this particular parent.
So the goal was,
There was never any accountability. It was everything was always put back on me, or excuses, or yeah, it was very toxic. It was really toxic,
yeah,
and I put up with it because, um, like I say, I love this little girl, and she had been with me, a couple years at that point, and yeah, so
yeah, I'm really feeling for you because sometimes we believe that we're stuck between a rock and a hard place.
yeah, definitely.
And like we really have no options. And the truth of the matter is that there's always, like, if you picture yourself in between a rock and a hard place, you literally all the time have a backwards exit and a forwards exit.
Hmm.
And you're actually covered in, I don't know, when I grew up on the Sunshine Coast, they had these log climbing competitions, and the logs in the bay would be covered with something really slippery. and and that's what I'm picturing all of us when we're in a situation where we feel like we don't have options. We actually are covered with like this oil that makes moving quite easy, but the oil only is apparent to us when we believe that this can be good for everyone and I have options, right?
Right.
And that my decision um, can never have the negative consequences that I fear when I'm making it from the right place. And my sense is you're focusing much more of your energy on what you feared would happen and what you were anxious about than what was in your control and what was good for you and good for the rest of the kids, you know?
Right.
Anything coming up as I spoke there?
Um, I feared the outcome that actually came to be anyways.
Yeah.
The backlash and the anger and the all that stuff. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Sometimes the worst case scenarios do happen. But it sounds like maybe for a year you lived with an underlying fear, which can really eat away at your health and your happiness and your peace of mind for that whole time. Like there's a
Right.
cost, right?
Yeah.
There's a cost when we don't set boundaries when we know we really want to. And yet we focus more on the fear. So let's talk about the did you ever make a plan beforehand for if this does happen, this thing that I fear, then I have a plan. And I've actually got a plan B if that worst case scenario happens. Did you ever think down that pathway?
No, I don't think so. No.
Okay. So you told me that incidents like these really impact your physical body, even,
Yes.
right? And you don't even feel like yourself for a while. And
Right.
it's hard for you to not take it personally.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It affects every cell in my body pretty much.
Yeah. And I get it because there's been times when I've cried really hard and I'm just not available for my marriage or for my kids,
Mm.
let alone the public or friends, because I'm so wrapped up in a situation because I've taken it personally.
Yeah.
So, is there anything else that, well, let's start there actually in taking it personally, because it sounds like you'd like to be able to not do that anymore. And so, what did you what did you leave this situation believing about yourself? If you took it personally, then where did you let it land? What were you thinking the whole time you didn't feel yourself?
Mm. Um, can you ask me that again, please?
Hmm. So, when you were in a more dark place, or I don't know how you describe it, sad place, uh, deflated place, and you weren't feeling yourself, which I'm going to assume is more energized, clear minded, more joyful, hopeful, right?
Yeah.
When you're not feeling like that, what do you start believing about yourself that just isn't true, but impacts your physical health and mental health?
Um,
It's that judging voice, that critical voice.
hmm. I don't know because I really feel I did the right thing. I did it, um, respectfully and with integrity and I feel I did all the right things. It was more just like the response that came back at me just just sent me into the tailspin that I was in. And like, I don't think the only thing I think I did wrong was to let it go on so long.
What do you
um,
mean by that? What do you mean by letting it go on so long?
that I should have ended the relationship sooner.
Okay.
Um, but even when my mind is like, you did all the right things, my body is just, the stress response is just over the top.
My sense is I'm not getting the feeling that you took it personally, though maybe there is a story in there that is pretty vulnerable to share, and saying it out loud feels really uncomfortable. Is there truth in there?
Well, when a grown person calls you a name, it really doesn't feel very
Yeah. Uh,
good.
did you align with that name?
No, no.
Okay. Okay. Um, that's great. So my sense is it might be grieving, not taking things personally.
Oh, maybe. Yeah. I mean, it really hurts to be called a name after all you've done for a family for 3 years. That it comes down to that,
Mhm.
for the millions of good things I've done over the years, right?
Mhm.
It comes down to that. That's how this person responds
Mhm.
to you.
Yeah. And there's some things that being human are quite challenging to and take time to almost swim through,
Mhm.
right? Walk through and release. It sounds like I know someone who, moving past the death of her mother, took a very long time. She went to see so many different healers and practitioners and to get support in a myriad of different ways. And she's just now sharing her story about what it took to walk through that and release it.
Right. Yeah. Sorry. When you said grieving, I think you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, you don't have to be sorry. Emotions are good. So, what do you think you're open to grieving?
Um, um,
Take your time, Karen.
the relationship I had with this child.
Do you want a glass of water?
Yeah, I have water.
Okay, good. That really hurts and is worthy of you grieving over. Mhm. Because it sounded like a really special relationship.
Yeah.
And yet, if she was an adult right now and could eavesdrop on our conversation,
Hmm.
I'm 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 almost positive she would say, "Well, you can never lose my love." Right? That's something that can never be taken away just because this happened. And I wonder if there was something that you were believing that you had to give up when she left your care. Like, I know that you won't be seeing her on a regular basis, and on the physical realm plane, a lot has changed.
Yes. No, I'll never see her again.
Mhm.
Her parents have her so turned against us that I'm sure this poor child is so confused right now.
Yeah. Depending on your spiritual beliefs, I know for myself, there's things that I can't control in this world, and I can't coordinate the way I'd like to, but I trust and I pray that things that happen in my children's lives that I can't protect them from and I can't guard them from, that God would speak the truth into their situation and into their hearts and into their minds. Because
Mhm.
I don't know if you've ever experienced a spiritual moment where it felt like, wow, I don't know how I moved from feeling heavy to light in that area, but something's changed.
Yeah.
And I've experienced that. Have you?
Yes. Yeah.
God or source or someone greater, something greater has the power to do miracles that you can't do and I can't do.
Right.
Right? Like we can be used for that. And there are miracles that we perform on a daily basis. I believe God through us. And if that, I hope that can give you some hope, no matter what your spiritual beliefs are, that even though words have been spoken to her, that she would still know the truth.
I
Mhm,
hope so. Yeah.
mm, mhm. So, is there something in your heart that you know to be the truth about when I allow myself to grieve this and accept this like a wave, like washing me instead of resisting it? That's when you're in the flow, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I wonder if some of the angst in your body was a resistance to any of that, any of this,
Um, yeah, probably.
right?
Yeah. I wasn't aware that it was grief I was feeling, which clearly it is now.
Yeah.
Um, and I was fighting it because I thought it was something else.
What could you be open to now about in regards to the grief that would help you?
Letting myself feel it and process it, and just being able to name it. That's okay. That's what that is,
Hmm.
and I'm allowed to grieve it.
Yeah. And now you probably can go deep so that you can rise again, right?
Right.
Instead of like feeling like, no, I'm not going to let it pull me down. I'm not going to, like, oh my goodness, how much energy can we waste on resisting, right?
Totally. Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes we think that when we let an emotion pull us down, we're going to feel out of control and something bad will happen there. But actually, that's the safest place that you can be. And you're still cradled, you're still held, you're still taken care of. And
Hmm.
there's so much wisdom in the grief. So, something you can ask yourself if you want to write this down for later, or we can talk about it right now as well, is does what's the wisdom that grief wants to share with me?
Um, that it's a big loss and it's okay to feel sad about it. Um, and just what a big loss it is.
So the acknowledgement about the enormity of it.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And the permission to feel.
Yeah.
A coach that I've worked with for a while now talks about how in every problem, so sometimes we can see emotions as problematic or something we don't want to feel, right? In every problem, there's seeds of solution. And I think that maybe you and I have talked about this before. And so the next question you can ask yourself when you're spending time in reflection is where is there opportunity for life again? Where is there opportunity for, and then you would fill in the blank with whatever it is that you desire now.
Hmm.
So let's talk about what some of those desires are that are bubbling up now that you're beginning to feel a little bit more like yourself. But maybe, maybe there's a deep dive still needed to happen in this area. Let's talk about what some of those true desires are, not should desires like I should feel happy or I should get over this or whatever those should desires are. But the actual true desires, it's like soul filling soul filling desires.
That's a tough one.
I sense that uh, acceptance would be one of them. Like, and I'm just going to throw a couple things out there. Um, my desires moving forward are acceptance of the situation or like acceptance of the situation that I don't like.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I'd like to feel that way. I'm just being you, Karen.
Okay.
Um, maybe a true desire would be to walk in peace, even though things like this happen. Like to be able to carry peace with me everywhere I go.
Hmm. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
Maybe another desire would be to find joy in unexpected places when things like this are happening. Maybe it's to be able to keep you can write things down if they hit home for you, but you don't have to. Maybe it's to be able to keep an open heart even when I get hurt, like to allow myself to keep loving my children that are in my care deeply and not shut down when things like this happen.
Right. Yeah.
That's an art.
That's a good, yeah. And that's a good one. Can you say that one again, please?
Yeah, sure. So, one of your true desires might be to be a woman who, or a person who keeps her heart open and continues to love these children in her care very deeply, even when she's been hurt, right? Because we can have a knee jerk reaction when we've been hurt to close up, clam up, and tell ourselves a story that it's not safe to love deeply
Right. Yeah.
and that this is going to happen again and again. When the truth of the matter is, sometimes it might happen, but it's worth loving deeply for. Anyways,
Hmm.
isn't that the story of life?
Yeah. Yes.
It's worth loving deeply. And then and it's worth having boundaries too because your heart is worth taking care of.
Hmm.
Yeah, and that's something I was thinking about this future version of this little one you're talking about is I think that she would want you to take care of your heart, because it sounds like you guys got one another. You both equally loved one another. And I doubt that love has died. She's probably just confused. And as an adult, I know she would be thinking, I'm sure glad Karen stood up for herself because she's worth it, took care of herself. And I totally believe what you're saying, that you're proud of how you did it, had the conversation with integrity. I don't know what that sounded like, but you've gotten very good at that. Mhm.
Yeah.
And kudos to you, because that's not easy to address conflict with confidence, calmness. You might not have felt calm, probably not, and care, consideration. That's beautiful.
Mhm.
So, moving forward to close, here's one third step for you is the new case I'm building is, and then you can fill in that blank. So maybe the new case you want to build is that it's safe to love deeply, or maybe um, good things still happen when I set boundaries, and boundaries are worth setting because I'm important. And this preschool and daycare space it's important for this to be a safe and healthy space too. And there's ripple effects, positive ripple effects when I set boundaries.
Yeah. And negative ones when I don't.
Mm-hmm. So we confirm to our brains and try and support a case sometimes for why it's not safe and not helpful and not good to set boundaries in business or in personal life, but we're talking about in business relationships right now.
Mhm.
So you tell me, why don't you summarize the new case you want to start gathering proof around so that you can start believing something more helpful and healthy that will help you set boundaries?
Hmm. Can you ask that in a different way, please?
Sure. Let me use an example from a case I'm building for myself.
Okay.
Ah, okay. So this doesn't have to do with relationships, but I'm building a case for myself. So this is when I say building a case, another way of communicating that is I'm building up proof that something new is true for me.
Okay.
So I'm gathering evidence. It's like, oh, there's another flower. See, yellow flowers do grow here. Found another one. So I'm building up proof that I serve people best and people find me the easiest and the most effectively when I show up just naturally and authentically in my full Amy power, Amy self, right? Instead of trying to show up online or in person by copying someone else, or not copying, but like doing activities that create success for someone else, right? So
Right. Yeah.
that's the case I'm building for myself, to give you an example.
Okay. Um, I serve people best when I'm taking care of myself. Um,
So I wonder if you might build a case that says, when I take care of myself, my relationships deepen, my business grows, I help more people.
yeah. Can you say those again? I'm going to write them down.
Sure. So, proof that when I take care of myself, my business grows, I help more people, and I don't know what the third thing is that I said.
Um,
I serve more powerfully. Oh, my relationships deepen.
okay.
We forget that people are watching us. There's old sayings that say, like, people aren't thinking about you as much as you think they are, but people are watching you. They're watching at you and they learn from you.
Hmm.
Your spouse learns from you, the kids in your daycare learn from you, other families that you serve learn from you in how you communicate and how you value yourself, and it actually creates more respect for you. The fear is people will disrespect me, but actually when you respect yourself, you more respect comes to you because that's how you're treating yourself. The lie is that when I'm respecting myself, I'm being rude or I'm being inconsiderate or I'm being hard hearted or something like that, which
Hmm.
isn't the truth. So every time you set a boundary, whether it's tiny, Karen, or large moving forward, keep a place in your notebook for tracking this, tracking the proof that, oh, so and so responded really well. That's proof.
Right.
Or, so and so heard about, told a friend whose child is now coming to my daycare because they've been, her and I had that conversation. And she even congratulated me for making time for myself, whatever it was, right?
Hmm.
So remember to log these. When you think about them, log them, because it does change how you change your perception, and it improves your confidence. It will definitely improve your confidence in this area.
Okay.
So from your perspective, Karen, what's the biggest, like the most helpful emotion you're taking away from today? And is there an action item that you want to commit to, that you want to move forward?
Um, well, definitely the grieving part is huge because I didn't look at it that way. And of course, that's what it is. Um, there's going to be a lot of grieving in the next little while as I have a big group of kindergartners going off. So just to acknowledge those feelings and to be able to recognize that that's what it is and that's okay. And that's just proof of how well loved these kids are. And um, and not trying to let the feelings be felt and not try and squash them down.
Right.
Yeah.
So keeping your heart open a little bit more all the time to just acknowledge and hold the feelings.
Right.
I'm getting an idea too that you may want to use that could take a very small amount of time, but has the potential to be very powerful and helpful for you. And that is a ritual around releasing and grieving and what feels like letting go, right? We'd much rather even get bloody hands from holding on, you know?
Yeah.
We don't think we're doing that to ourselves, but that's what happens. So the ritual could look something like, in your mind, saying to yourself, I'm always giving out love and more love is always coming back to me, right? Like a breath. when you breathe in, you have to breathe out, but then there's always more air to breathe in. It's just cyclical, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what kind of ritual you might like, but it might be really special to have some time that you set aside, even 15 minutes, where you consciously release, but you don't have to let go of love. You can have a place for love in your heart for those children, and then to welcome love back into your life through new relationships, love and connection. And I'm picturing something tactile as well that might be part of the ritual, like little rocks to represent the kids or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, Karen, thank you so much for spending this time with me. Is there anything else you'd like to say as we close?
Um, I'm just so glad that I renamed it as grief. It's such a relief. Yeah, even
Good,
that just feels so good. It's like, okay, yes, that's what it is. Yeah. So, yes, thank you, Amy. That, yeah, amazing. Thank you.
good. You're so welcome. Okay, we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, thanks, Amy.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.